I was in a courtroom when the clerk said bail is set at $20,000, and the woman who'd tried to run my block like her personal kingdom loosened her grip on that battered clipboard and almost dropped it. A tiny plastic clack, louder than the gavel. And in that second, my brain snapped back to a Saturday at 7:12 a.m. Coffee going cold doorbell. Camera blinking red, her finger stabbing toward my Honda, while she promised it would be gone in 30 minutes for breaking a rule she'd made up on her way over. My name is Evan Cole Maple Ridge, Arizona. Quiet cul-de-sac. Birds, sprinklers, dogs arguing with squirrels. And when I bought here, I checked the disclosures like a man reading a prenup. HOA, that was the point. So when the knocking started that morning, not neighborly tapping, but a judge's gavel 3 beats deliberate, I already knew this wasn't about kindness or courtesy. This was someone auditioning for power on my porch. She had the uniform you buy online when you want to feel official Navy fleece, with an embroidered patch plastic badge on a lanyard clipboard, tucked like a sidearm spine. Straight as a yardstick, mid-50s, and practiced Darlene Bishop. And before I could say good morning, she hit me with it. Your rear tire is 2 inches over the sidewalk line. You've been warned, pay $325, or we tow. And I said warned by who, because this street doesn't have an HOA. And she smiled. Without her eyes, we're self-governed. The regulations exist whether you acknowledge them or not. You know what I mean. Then she angled her chin toward a new sign stuck in the median. No overnight parking. HOA enforced. Inkjet red on laminated white $15 of theater, trying to pass for law. I took photos. Sign badge clipboard her. And she didn't like that you can't record me. She snapped. And I pointed to the sidewalk public space. Public conversation I'm documenting. And she jabbed the clipboard like a traffic baton. Consider this your first written warning, and marched away like the scene had wrapped. And I hadn't hit my mark. Inside, I did what I do for a living. I pulled the file deed page showing no CC&Rs. County search showing no Maple Ridge Estates HOA city summary that says parking on a public right-of-way belongs to the city. Not to Karen with a clipboard. Printed all 3. Set the doorbell cam to catch the street. Told myself I wasn't moving the car. Then called my neighbor, Miss Gloria. 72 retired choir director. Front porch full of geraniums and opinions. And she said, "Baby, we don't have an HOA. We have Darlene. She prints signs. She waives fines. Folks pay because they don't want trouble. And when I asked what happens if you say no, Gloria sighed. She calls a tow or says she will some flatbed shows up. And the driver shrugs while you open your wallet. I looked at my Honda and felt something steady click into place. Not anger. Not yet just that quiet stubbornness you get when a stranger tries to make you small on your own concrete. And I poured a second cup I wouldn't drink, and waited. 40 minutes later, the rumble came. You feel it in your ribs. Flatbed with peeling paint. And no logo. No DOT number. A guy in oil-stained boots climbing out like he'd rather be anywhere else. Buck Rizzo, of course, that was his name. And behind him, Darlene, pacing like a stage manager. Cueing an entrance. Chin high, eyes on my bumper, we have a problem. I asked, polite phone voice, and Buck looked to her. First, not me, which told me everything. Hook it, she said. He's refusing to comply. And I asked Buck what company he worked for. He handed me a business card. Thin as a napkin, he mail. Dress, no address, no license listed. And I asked if he had a contract with the city to tow from a public street. Darlene cut in before he could stutter. Pay now and this goes away. Otherwise, the car goes 20 minutes. And I said, how about we ask a neutral party? And I dialed 911 on speaker, not to be dramatic, just because the temperature drops when the room knows an adult is coming. Cancel that call, she hissed. This is an HOA matter. And I said, it's a public street. Public rules. You hear me? And the dispatcher asked if anyone was threatening me. I said no. Just attempting to tow a legally parked car. And 15 minutes later, a cruiser turned onto our road. Like a scene change. Sergeant Miles Ortega stepped out with the posture of a man who's heard every story. Twice took in the car. The sign the badge asked Darlene to show documentation that her group had authority on a public right-of-way, and she gave him the speech property. Values community standards we've all agreed. And he tapped the sign with a knuckle. Hollow plastic. Not city issue, ma'am. Agreements among neighbors aren't legal authority. Remove this sign now. And if you continue impersonating an official capacity, we'll be discussing charges then. He handed me his card, told me to keep documenting, and Buck disappeared before the conversation reached consequences. I slept 2 hours that night, then sat up thinking. Check the audio, and that's where the story bends. My doorbell mic had caught their pre-scene chat. Faint but clean enough if you turn it up. Darlene. Saying he's new, easy one. You get your cut, I get mine. 60-40. And I watched the little blue waveform spikes march across the timeline like receipts. Yeah, that happened. And the heat that moved through me wasn't fury. It was clarity. The kind you feel when a bluff finally trips on its own feet. I made backups. Local cloud a USB in an Altoids tin, and started a folder that grew teeth photos of the fake sign, the flimsy business card. Deed page city code. Ortega's card. And by afternoon, my neighbor Nico had posted his window video comments piled up like pallets at a hardware store. Classic Karen. Stand your ground, and a few just move your car. Bro, which misses the point by a mile. Then a neighbor DM'd me. A link with a caption that said, "You should see this Maple Ridge Community Fund. Logo. Stock photo flower beds." I'd never seen donate $25 a month for improvements. Treasurer, Mr. Whiskers, and I had to sit down. Not metaphorical. An actual orange cat. Captioned supervisor. And when I checked the state charity database, no registration, no EIN, no filings, just a soft focus funnel for cash. The next day, letters showed up in 7 mailboxes. Fancy letterhead from Thatcher and Rowe LLP, warning us to remove false statements and apologize or face defamation suits. And 5 minutes of Googling said the law firm didn't exist. The bar had no record. The email was free. The address was a pack and ship next to a dead yogurt place, and my patience snapped into action paper. Isn't magic, truth is so. I filed a formal report with Ortega, and a complaint with the Attorney General attached the 60-40 audio, the sign photos, the fake letters, the cat treasurer, screenshots, a timeline with dates and names of neighbors, willing to talk, told myself to breathe because bureaucracy moves slow on purpose. Then watched Darlene try a reboot. 2 towns over, Elm Creek Neighborhood Alliance. New logo, same pitch dues, $35 a quarter. Security patrol, transparency. Treasurer, Lady Peaches. Which, yes, turned out to be a dog. A woman named Tasha from Elm Creek found me through the video and asked me to come to a public park info session, and I stood under a Ramada while Darlene sold standards and unity and values, then opened the floor for questions and tried to pretend she didn't see me until she couldn't. and I kept it under 5 minutes, just a slideshow on my phone. Fake sign tow scene. 6040 audio. Mr. Whisker's State database. Search with no registration. The AG's receipt email. And a man in a ball cap asked, "Is Lady Peaches your dog?" And the silence felt like a power line humming. Then Darlene said, "That's private organizational information." And the man said, "That's not an answer." And the meeting ended. Itself, people asking for refunds. Someone filming Darlene, clutching the clipboard like it could float. Detective Lena Cho called after that voice like a steel ruler. Bring everything she said, and a week later, she told me they were seeing deposits near $39,000 over several years. Memo lines like HOA dues and neighborhood fees, all into personal accounts. Not business, not nonprofit. The local news ran a piece just long enough to stick. More folks stepped forward with dates and amounts and threats, and then we were in a different room. Fluorescent lights, hard benches, everyone pretending they weren't watching, and a judge who did not care about anyone's performance. The verdict landed like a clean door close guilty on counts that all rhymed with the same idea. Pretending to be power and cashing the checks. Restitution to identified donors. Fines, community service that doesn't involve leading anything. A 10-year ban from serving as an officer for any community group. Bail revoked, pending paperwork, and when the deputy stepped forward, Darlene scanned the room as if there might still be a door only she could see. Weeks later, she mailed me a letter on floral stationery. Careful loop is never the words. "I'm sorry, I never meant harm, people misunderstood. Communities need standards." And I realized she didn't see what she'd done as wrong. She saw it as necessary. And that's the kind of story people will relive until something bigger than a clipboard says stop. The epilogue was quick. Someone spotted her handing out flyers as a community management consultant in a neighborhood across the county line. Technically dancing around the ban, her probation officer noted it. One more step, and that dance ends, and the neighborhood here got boring. In the best way. Miss Gloria hosts porch coffee on Fridays. Nico helps folks set up doorbell cams and label files. Tasha and her Elm Creek crew built a legitimate association with Bylaws open elections and a treasurer who's a human CPA and signs her name with an actual license number. Here's what I learned: the power you think you're waiting for someone to hand you is usually a light switch on your own wall. Documentation is a switch, calm. Is a switch saying, "Show me," the paper is a switch. And when enough neighbors flip those switches at the same time, the room gets bright fast. I'll leave you with the question that still pokes me when I pour a first cup on a Saturday. When is care actually control? When is control just dressed up as care? And how many of us, if we're honest, have been tempted to pick up a clipboard? Because it feels good to be the one who says yes or no. You know what I mean, yeah, that happened on my street and it stopped. Because a tired guy with a folder said, "Prove it." If this stirred something in you, tell me in the comments whether what happened to Darlene feels like justice or not. Enough or too much share. Where you're watching from, drop your own story about a rule that wasn't a rule, and the moment you finally said, "Show me." And if you learned anything about staying calm and flipping your own switch like the video, so it reaches the next person staring at a cooling cup of coffee while someone invents a law on their porch, I want to hear what you think all of it.